I'd like to talk about the war in Iran. Yesterday, in your Senate testimony, you told Senator Booker that the war in Iran is over. This is news to me. It's also news to my 2,500 constituents, Marines, San Diego Marines in the Middle East off the coast of Iran, the other of my constituents who are deployed there, and the thousands more of my constituents who have 48-hour deployment notices whose families are still very concerned. But okay, I will take you at your word. If the war is over, I have a simple question. Who won?
First of all, epic fury is over, which is what you would consider the war. That operation is
So you agree it's a war, then?
No, those are hostilities. They called it a war. Okay. I'm just responding to the Senator Booker's
Mr. Secretary, you can change the name of the operation. It doesn't change the fact that the strait is still closed and my service members and all of our service members are still in harm's way. The war is not over. But I'm agreeing with you. Okay, fine. We're taking you at your word. The war is over. Who won?
Well, first of all, you're not taking me at my word. It's a fact. We're no longer conducting sustained strikes inside of Iran to degrade their military because epic fury is over. The second point is on the question of who won, I can tell you this. We defined victory as destroying their defense industrial base, significantly reducing the number of missile launchers that they possess, significantly reducing their stockpile of drones. And we achieved all of those in addition to destroying what they had left of an Air Force and wiping out their entire conventional Navy. Those are all gone. So I consider that victory, and we did too, and that was the purpose of epic fury.
Okay, well, good. Based on the metrics that you just said, okay, there's actually, our intelligence community has said that Iran is reconstituting its military industrial base faster than we had predicted, and analysts assess it still holds roughly 70% of its missile stockpile and 70% of its mobile launchers. The Strait of Hormuz was open before the war. It is now closed. We have lost 14 brave American service members, over 400 are injured, and the Iranian regime remains largely intact, but now with a more hardline leader who has more incentive to try and get a nuclear weapon. So I guess I have to ask you again, Mr. Secretary, does this actually look like winning or losing to you?
Well, first of all, I don't know what intelligence assessments you're referring to. We wouldn't discuss intelligence assessments if they were real.
These have been publicly reported.
Well, they're publicly reported. Someone committed a crime, and by the way, is also lying. And this happens all the time. People manipulate intelligence and analysis for purposes of furthering a narrative. On your point about the regime is actually deeply fractured, which is why it takes 7 to 10 days to get an answer from them for anything. Meanwhile, they
fractured, but still intact.
Well, intact, even reach agreements that they can get back to us. So I don't know how intact that is. What they have is people that are afraid to go into the streets. Their repressive operations have held people back, in addition to the fact they've cut off the internet. But this is a country right now, in this regime, that is facing hyperinflation, a completely devalued currency, hundreds of billions of dollars in damage to their military infrastructure. And frankly, all of the pre-existing problems that Iran had in their economy, which is why people were protesting, are worse. Not better.
Sure,
and they have to deal with that too.
Mr. Secretary, so you're saying we're winning because the Iranian economy has inflation, it's cost them millions of dollars a day in lost revenue, and because it's going to cost them billions of dollars to rebuild. Well, we are having inflation. It's already cost us an estimated $100 billion. Gas prices are up with no end in sight. The average family is paying an extra $450 on gas and could pay an extra $2,000 by the end of the year. The American people are not stupid, Mr. Secretary. We all know that this war is not over. Just last night, the U.S. and Iran exchanged fire again, this time over Karg Island. We still have not reached a deal, despite the president's promise that a deal is right around the corner. The president even said today the blockade could last until Labor Day. It's now day 97 of the war that the president said he wanted to end quickly. So I have one last question for you. Mr. Secretary, who won the 2020 presidential election?
I'm not here to answer a question about 2020. This is a foreign affairs committee.
Okay, great. You can't answer the question, even though we all know that President Biden won. I don't answer the question
because the Secretary of State, I do not participate in domestic political issues.
This is not about domestic political issues.
This
is about our democracy.
You're asking me to opine, just like I don't do campaign rallies.
It seems like
I don't do because as Secretary of State, we're not supposed to. That's been the long tradition of the department, and you should know that if you've been on this committee for any period of time.
Mr. Secretary, it seems like you have an issue admitting facts. You can't say that the president lost the 2020 election, just like you won't admit President Trump is losing this reckless war of choice, and just like you couldn't admit that the shoes the president bought you were too big. You clearly don't know what winning means, and not because the facts are unclear to you, it's because telling the truth would cost you your job, and the American people are entitled to a Secretary of State who tells them the truth even when the president doesn't want to hear it, and my constituents, our service members, deserve better. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
I don't know what shoes she's talking about. What is she talking about?
Representative Burchett, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you'd like to answer any of that.
Yeah, I don't know about the
I'll
shoes.
give
I mean,
you a
he gave me
minute.
some Florsheim shoes. They're actually pretty good. They fit fine. I don't know what she's talking about. And maybe that's what she's referring to.
Your shoes look very nice today, Mr. Secretary.
Well, how can you see them? They're way down here. We're talking about shoes. Are you guys kidding me? I mean, is this the Foreign Affairs Committee or is this like a circus? What is this?
I think it's a
Let's go.
circus, but I appreciate you being here, Mr. Secretary. The United States is NATO's largest financial contributor. Why does NATO consistently ignore our call to share more of the defense burden in Europe? And is it our national interest to continue participating in NATO?
Well, I can give you the why, okay? And the why is pretty, and is the following. Especially in Western Europe, for the better part of 20 or 30 years, they have not had to spend on defense because the U.S. security shield has allowed them to instead spend their money on building up a very vast and robust social safety network. In my time as a senator and before that as a state representative, you would hear often from constituents about how come they have this and that in Europe and we don't have it here. Well, one of the reasons why is because these very rich countries were spending their money on social programs instead of defense because we were covering their defense. That paradigm has to shift. It has to shift for two reasons. The first is these are very wealthy countries that should have the ability to spend more to build up their defenses and need to. And this is not unique to President Trump. Multiple American presidents in both parties have complained about NATO burden sharing. This is just the first president that actually is doing something about it. The second point is the United States has global obligations. Just as I can leave a meeting with Europeans that want to talk about NATO, and the next meeting will be with someone from the Indo-Pacific that would like to see a greater U.S. military presence in the Indo-Pacific. And then you can talk to Gulf partners that want to make sure we're still committed to defending and being involved there. And then you can go to Africa and talk to countries that want to see our cooperation on counterterrorism. And then you can go to the Western Hemisphere where they want us to do more with them as well and pay more attention. So the U.S. has global obligations, and while we have vast resources, we do not have unlimited resources. We have to allocate them, and that will include constantly re-examining what our force posture looks like in Europe in comparison to other theaters and potential contingencies around the world.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I also wanted to thank you in the White House for supporting the bill that I've been pushing to defund the Taliban. You're very kind to me to meet with me, and I appreciate that very much, and the President's support as well. As you know, we're the UN's largest financial contributor, but it consistently pushes policies like abortion and gender ideology in spite of our opposition. And every time there's a new council or whatever, and it's always our enemies that seem to be on there. Why is the U.S. still a member of the United Nations?
Of the United Nations?
Yes, sir.
Well, twofold, I would say. The first is United Nations, of course, is a very frustrating thing for us, primarily because it's been unable to intervene or play a constructive role in most of the major crises around the world. It's lost its purpose, it's lost its mission. I think our UN mission is doing a very good job of driving substantial reforms at the UN and using our fees as leverage to achieve those reforms. Last year, actually, we had some pretty substantial successes, some real reductions in the size, in the bloated budget of the UN. By the way, this is not just a U.S. position. Multiple countries agree with us that the UN had grown too large and it lost its core mission. On the other hand, there have been instances, and we try to use the UN where possible as a viable forum in which to solve problems. It was helpful as a forum in the Council, for example, in standing up the new mission in Haiti, in which the U.S. contribution